Hello and welcome back to the Delve podcast. Today we're talking about a John Green video called The Seduction of Despair. I'm Allie. I'm a staff therapist here at Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago.
And I'm Adam. I'm the executive and clinical director at director. I am the director at
Director.
Delve Psychotherapy of Chicago. Easy for me to say.
It's okay. You've done, 56 episodes cleanly doing that. 57. It's okay. You can mess up at the 57th time.
We should all embrace mistakes because they're inevitable.
Yes. Help us spread the word with this podcast, please. We do very much rely on word of mouth. And also, please do follow us on Instagram at Delve Psych Chicago for some more juicy tidbits over there, and our Substack as well, delvepsych.substack.com. Here at Delve Psych, we offer individual, couples, group, and family therapy. So if you are interested in a free consultation call, head on over to delvepsych.com. That's DELVEPSYCH.com.
And we've hit a couple of milestones, Allie. First is that we hit 1,000 subscribers on Instagram. So that's cool. And then second, we hit our 1-year anniversary of the podcast.
Woo-hoo! Milestones galore.
Yeah.
I literally can't believe it's been a year of us doing this thing. It doesn't feel like a year, but looking back on it, we have done a lot of episodes.
We've done a lot and tried our very best to provide as much content as we could to people trying to figure out life in the pursuit of happiness and whether you should pursue happiness.
Yes, I believe we do have a podcast on that, I think. All right. So shall we get into the topic for today? So this is one of your favorite YouTube videos, I believe, because I remember you sent this to me a long time ago when I first started interning at Delve. You sent me this video, so.
Yeah. I firstly, I think that John Green is quite wise. I think that the way that he frames things and the way that he tends to understand certain psychological phenomena and maybe like social systems phenomena, and the way that he articulates about them is incredibly helpful. He's one of the people that I feel like I can learn from. I've recently learned that I should be careful providing too many accolades about too many of these public figures, because who knows what they're actually like, and if we'll discover tomorrow that there's some bad thing that they've done. I don't think so with this guy, but who knows, but the content that I've experienced so far has been quite enriching. And this one in particular, I find to be a better way to look at the idea of despair, because I think there's such an obvious and easy draw toward despair right now in our cultures. If you're looking, I think he says in the video, if you look for reasons to justify your despair, you will find them.
Oh my gosh, especially in today's world. I mean, you look anywhere, look at the news, look on your phone. It's so easy to feel sad and down and hopeless and feel despair about the state of things.
Yeah.
Look and you will find it fairly easily.
Yeah. And I wonder at what era in time that was not true. When were we feeling confident about things? I don't know when that was. There was maybe brief periods of time when it seemed like everything was hunky-dory, but very often when we thought things were hunky-dory, that was only for a select few set of people, right? You look at like the promise and hope and optimism after World War II. Yeah, but civil rights, right? Often the periods that start to look good on the surface are not for many, many, many people. And so that's one way to look at this, is that even the periods of seeming like reprieve from despair are probably more complicated than that to begin with.
Right. It just depends what you're looking at and who you're looking at.
For sure.
So why is it so dang seductive to despair?
So going back to Aristotle's rules for rhetoric, he talked about the idea that one of the ways to persuade and to motivate is using emotionality. That's the idea of pathos. So the rules for rhetoric essentially outline three kind of domains of persuasion. So ethos being much more kind of like the way that things look on the surface, logos being the logical argumentation around it, and pathos being the emotionality behind it. And when you pair the fact that we seem to be driven by emotions as humans with the fact that we also seem to have loss aversion and negativity biases, then you're more likely to be motivated by negative emotions than you are by positive emotions. There's also been, John Green and others have more recently been posting some kind of additional argumentation about this, that bad news happens fast and good news happens slow and deliberately. He had another video, both he and John and Hank Green both recently posted a video in which they pointed out that if you were to write the good news story of the day, the best news that has happened every single day over the past several decades, the same news story would be true almost every single day, which is that fewer children died today than did yesterday, and fewer children will die tomorrow than died today. The rampant health improvements, especially affecting infant mortality and childhood health overall, have been dramatic, substantial, global, and constant. And we don't write that story because it's the same story every day.
And it's not, that headline is not gonna, I don't know, sell. It's not gonna catch your attention. Like the psychology of what you were saying, this like negativity bias of like, I think it's why the news does tend to be doom and gloom of like, oh, look how horrible this thing is here, because that's what catches our attention, right? If they were just like, look what this guy did, he saved a puppy. Like, yes,
Yeah.
it's nice. It's a feel good story, but is that going to make you want to like stop everything you're doing and be like, oh my God, oh shoot, what was that? Like, ooh, like sometimes we like to watch the train wreck, which is sad, but
Sure.
I mean, it's the truth. That's what catches our attention. Yeah.
Yeah, and you think about the instantaneousness of destruction. You know, when a massive earthquake hits or something of that nature, you go from a city that was intact to a city that's in tatters in moments. And there's no real equivalent of that for construction, where you go from something that's completely disorganized to, okay, great, now that's way better all of a sudden. It's like building and creating and constructing and securing and assuring just take more time. It is a slow, methodical build.
Right.
What I do really love is that there are a lot of people who are doing that slow grind work on a daily basis. And I've had occasion in some instances to spend some time with some of the people who just methodically and repeatedly just do this work. And they are brilliant and steadfast and courageous and exhausted. So
I bet. Yeah, no, it's so true. I've never heard this idea before of like how bad things happen quick and catastrophically, and you see it. Like it's so plain to see when something bad happens and like, you know, things get blown up and torn down in an instant. But like good things, like most of the time things don't miraculously in a pinch just get better and you can see it clearly like, oh yeah. You know, usually it takes a lot of planning and slow work and growth and progress. Um,
right.
much like
And
therapy.
also, hey,
Much like therapy.
there you go. Yes, thank you. Well said. And I also should say that, you know, most of these bits of progress aren't that clean either. Like, would I be stunned to find that some good cause that actually did materially improve infant mortality also somewhere along the lines embezzled funds and enriched some, you know, oligarch or something like that? I wouldn't be stunned to find that sort of thing. Rarely are things cleanly good. Typically, things have some interaction with bad.
Yeah.
however we morally define that.
Yeah. So it's again, it's much easier, I think, to just be like, well, everything's on fire, everything's terrible. Because I think it does also take a lot of I don't know, you can tell me your thoughts on this idea, but I feel like being in despair and oh well there's nothing we can do about that thing takes a lot less effort and willpower than you know what, despite things being hard, I'm going to will myself to try to make things like better. That seems like the much harder plight that takes more energy than just kind of succumbing and throwing up your hands and being like, well, everything sucks, so I'm not going to even try to do anything about it.
Yeah, so I think about two things there. One is a political science term called worshiping the problem, where people, you'll hear this in political discourse. If people start talking about politics, very often they will point out, like, well, this thing's bad and that thing's bad and this thing's bad and that thing's bad and this is why this doesn't work and that's why that doesn't work. That sounds like really intelligent discourse, but it's actually relatively lazy discourse. Because if you are just pointing out the problems, you've done nothing to actually explore any of the solutions. And very often, when you start to actually look at solutions, you discover why some of the problematic things do still exist. And because there's uncomfortable truths about the fact that the actual logistics of getting certain things done is messy and usually bad. You think about the using. All right, here's an example that'll probably upset a lot of listeners, but it displays the point. Is like using natural gas is better for the environment than using coal. Both are bad for the environment. And it'd be great if we could use neither. So let's just use green energy. But the energy demands that the American public have, all of the American public have, are too great to be actually able to be made up for by green energy sources, as well as the fact that it takes extremely long periods of time to construct the infrastructure to actually be able to accomplish that. And so you could hypothetically see a news story in which a energy like a sector is transitioning from coal to natural gas, and you could say those assholes, they're continuing to pollute the environment. But that's actually a marginal improvement toward potentially green energy solutions down the line. Is it fast enough? Probably not. Could we do more? Sure. Should we race to get further down the pipeline of green energy as fast as we can? Most likely that's the thing that has the greatest benefits, though it does also have some downsides. Should we explore nuclear? Probably. Although with respect to the recent war eventualities and realities, there's some questions with respect to how well we can secure some of those sites. That's what I mean, is that it's so complicated. And I don't
Yeah.
think I'm being intellectually dishonest or morally bereft to point out that it's really complicated to figure out what the right moves are in some of this. And building anything requires slow, methodical planning and torturing out. Like, oh, is this a little better than that? Should we go with a little better? Should we go for a lot better? How long will that take? How likely are we to be successful? It's hard.
Yeah. No, you're so right that this idea of like anytime like you're in a like a political debate, it's so much easier to just point out what's wrong, point out what's wrong, point out what's wrong, than to like actually like have a solution that makes sense, is feasible. Like yeah, just coming up with the solutions is just so much harder than pointing out what's wrong. It's so easy
Yeah,
to point out what's wrong.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Um,
then and then I was going to add the second point was the why try effect. They found this in stigma research repeatedly, that at a certain point of kind of self-stigmatizing, especially about, if you stick with the language of mental illness, then self-stigmatizing about one's own mental illness, you start to kind of embrace the narrative of powerlessness, which I hope we can see the kind of akinness to I'm powerless in society or I'm powerless within my mental illness, either one. The why try effect essentially says that people get to a point at which their feeling of powerlessness, helplessness, and hopelessness leads them to just say, so why do anything? It's not worth the squeeze.
Right. And I think, yeah, like if you are one of many, especially if, in the whole country or in the whole world. And so it can feel really daunting because yes, the reality is you are powerless to a lot of these things. Um, However, I wonder like what is in your, purview? What difference can you make within your little area, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, a line that I've used in the past, it's rhetorically cute and slightly inaccurate, but bear with me. I like to say that you have the same amount of power today as you did yesterday about this issue and that, which is about 1/8 billionth. There's about 8 billion of us on the planet. You're one, so that's how much power you have.
mhm.
Do something with it. It's not zero.
It's not zero. So it's not, yeah, it's not completely zero. It is small. So I, you are valid in feeling, you know, powerless in that, but there is still one out of
Yeah.
whatever billion you just said. So there is something you can do. And I think any and all change is made from one person starting to make some moves.
For sure. And then now I will say, because we have been involved in legislation and advocacy, and we've worked on bills in the Illinois State Congress, and worked on a big one that got passed. Joining organizations rather than trying to be the sole savior, I think, is a lesson that a lot of people who want to make a difference need to learn. You need to figure out what help you can provide to structures that exist rather than imagining some structure and trying to get everybody to join you. I see this repeatedly where people are just sort of like, they'll sort of grab their bullhorn and metaphorically speaking, and take to the streets and start shouting. And then they look behind them and say, where is everybody? And when they see that there's nobody behind them, they put down their bullhorn, they go home, and they say, nah, nothing will make a difference.
Mm,
Find somebody with a bullhorn and follow them
mm.
and quit trying to be the leader of everything. I think that's a very American problem right now, especially an American male problem.
Mm. No, it's so true. I mean, there's strength in numbers. And yeah, it would be wise to join a cause and organization that aligns with how you're thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
And by you joining, then that organization or movement is just that much more strong and powerful because you decided to join it.
Yeah. And I think that John Green in the video does a really nice job of saying that, I think, oh, he's got a brilliant way in which he frames it, and I'm sure that I can't repeat it, but giving up because you can't change the world is sort of ignoring the fact that we all agree that your very being here and interacting with the people around you in some small way is going to and has already changed the world. And so sometimes we zoom out so large to these massive forces and we say, well, I can't change that, that we ignore the fact that within these smaller structures and more localized places, we're changing stuff all the time.
Mm,
And so we've sort of paid way too much attention to the large scale, way too little attention to the small scale, and abdicated our responsibility in the localized networks with which we play, which we would all agree a lot of localized change is going to lead to much larger systemic change. It's just that we want instant results. We want to be able to say, I put in this much work and I got that output from it. It's that kind of almost commodification of effort that the American mentality has so bit into, that we fail to see that our localized structures and strictures are where the differences will be made. So Zeynep Tufekci's book, Twitter and Tear Gas, talks a lot about the fact that a lot of historical movements that looked like it was sort of a moment in time where everything changed, if you actually look at what was happening, there were people organizing and communicating and building behind the scenes of those movements, such that when the right moment struck, there was an organization around it. And one of my favorite examples of this is the Rosa Parks example. On the surface, the story that we get told is that Rosa Parks one day sort of made a stand, and that sparked a movement. She had been working. She was an advocate for decades, I think it was, and was deeply connected to other advocates in that region and across the United States for decades. This was like a well-organized movement of people who had worked out their rhetoric, who had their communication lines intact, who had their structures and strictures figured out, such that when someone takes a stand, then everyone can organize around it. But that's not the story we get told. One day, one person made one move and it changed everything. That's not what happened. She was an experienced professional. I mean, she wasn't paid for it as far as I know, but she was an experienced sort of hand at doing exactly this for a very long time. She knew exactly what she was doing.
That's fascinating. Yeah, they don't teach you that in school, right? Yeah. Because I think it's more shiny, the story of just like one day, it just happened. It happened to happen, right?
Right.
When she had been working on it at it for a while. And oh, that's so interesting.
That book is one of my favorites, Twitter and Tear Gas. It changed
Twitter and
my
tear
view.
gas.
Yeah, it changed my view of politics substantially. She's a sociologist, a PhD in sociology, and actually ended up being on the ground for both of the Turkish revolutions, even though the second one, I think she wasn't living there any longer. She now writes for the New York Times. So yeah, she's brilliant. I learned a lot from her too.
Mm-hmm. So I guess like my question from here is two-part. Like I'm just, playing devil's advocate listener here. Can I not feel some sort of despair about what's going on then? Am I not allowed to feel that way? Because this shit sucks to put it directly. And two, I guess what would be more helpful from there if we're not allowed to feel this despair, or we shouldn't, then what should we feel instead? Or if we can, what else should we do that would be more helpful?
Well, I think it's interesting. I'm going to be pedantic here for a moment. No surprise. The should we feel thing, I know and that you're just giving voice to the listener. The should you feel thing, you're going to feel certain emotions, and you don't get to decide which ones you will or you won't feel. So should or shouldn't feel isn't really a thing. Emotions are kind of a thing that sort of happened to you. I'm oversimplifying, and maybe sometime we'll do a Schachter and Singer emotions podcast episode. So know that I'm way oversimplifying that. But generally speaking, emotions are a thing that kind of happened to you. So you don't get to decide which ones you're going to feel or not going to feel. You do get to decide what you're going to do now that you feel. Yeah. And I think if we doom scroll, what good does that do? I think if we fall into this seduction of despair, what good does that do? If we pick a fight with our partners, what good does that do? If we, try to go launch a political movement across the entire nation by ourselves from our couch, what good does that do? Why can't we work through those emotions? Perhaps in therapy, Dell Psychotherapy has immediate openings available, and we're pretty good at dealing with people who are trying to work their way through political stressors and systemic issues. Work through the feelings in therapy and then pick your actions toward the things that you actually care about. it's going to look different than you expect. Another thing that Zeynep Tufekci talks about in her book is that if you take a look at, let's say, like Occupy type movements where people are just going to set up in a space for a long period of time and they're not going to leave, a form of protest, right? There are human logistics involved in doing that. People need access to showers. They need entertainment, like books. You need rules and ways of kind of organizing your micro society. You need to feed people. You need to make sure that they have water. You need access to medical care. And let's say you need to feed people. That means that you need cooks. That also means you need dishwashers. And so somebody's movement, action, effort toward change in the political landscape is to wash the dishes. And I think you would rather be the one holding the bullhorn, leading the charge, and like at the front of the revolution. Do your dishes. Do the dishes of political work, whatever that is for you. Figure out metaphorically what that is for you and do those dishes. It might be that you're, just connecting a couple of people's phone numbers. It might be that you're passing out leaflets. It might be that you're just holding a sign. I don't know what it is, but like figure out what doing the dishes is relative to your particular skill set and position within these issues, and do your dishes.
That's well said. Yeah, I love that, because even that job that seems like, oh, this won't make a difference. No, we need you. They need you.
These people are going to starve otherwise or get diseases.
Yeah, you're doing your part. Like, there's no job too small in this whatever movement, I love that. So yeah, feel your feelings and then decide what you want to do with them.
Be smart.
Be smart
and connect with others.
And intentional, and yes. But yeah, I think, I recommend checking out that video, The Seduction of Despair. What's the YouTube, Vlog Brothers? Is that what their name is?
Basically it's this long running old school YouTube. These were like OG YouTube famous peoples. It's this long running series where once a week Hank talks to his brother John, and once a week John talks to his brother Hank, and we just get to witness it. It's been running for a decade more. I don't know.
Yeah.
He also talks a lot about his back injury in this, and having had a long-standing back injury. These days I've got almost no symptoms, but I've had horrendous back problems in my past. I want to say that even if the difficulty that you're dealing with feels quite personal, you're not alone. A lot of people have dealt with quite similar things, and there are still ways to move forward in your life regardless of what's happening for you.
Yeah. It's a 4-minute video, so check it out. All right, let's see what we got for our quote today. Oh, okay. Well, this goes along with the theme. A feeling of powerlessness is not a reality of powerlessness.
And in general, our feelings are not reality, right? I think it's so easy for us to kind of trick ourselves into believing that they are, but just because you feel a thing doesn't mean it's true. There's no way for these emotions buried deep within your limbic system, deep within your skull, to provide you some revelation about the outside world around you that is somehow some truth. That's not how it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about, I think we talked about on the podcast how feelings can stem from a lot of different things, from like your past, triggers coming up, you like, it may not be true that you're actually in danger right now, but because of something in your past, you're feeling fear, right? What else do we talk about that feelings can stem from?
Yeah, certainly your past, also the kind of hidden motivations that have been bestowed on you. So systems kind of teach you to treat things a certain way. People in your life might motivate you to do certain things. There are the subtle forces of kind of perception and sideways persuasions that could end up happening around you. I mean, we're multiply impacted, sometimes by temporary forces, sometimes by hidden forces. There's a really interesting finding. Oh gosh, or set of findings. It comes from network theory. I don't know this well, so I'm kind of, pardon me, listener, I'm a little bit speaking out my ass here, but I know there's some truthiness to this. But essentially, they were able to find in certain conditions within a network that person one is connected to person two is connected to person three, but person one and person three don't know each other. They can still affect each other by way of person two. So like I'm hanging out with my friend John, I make an argument about such and such a thing. John then weeks later interacts with Carol and makes that same argument with Carol. And I've just affected Carol. I've never met her.
Right. But because of, I don't know, the butterfly effect of it all, or just how
Yeah.
people affect each other. Yeah. There is. And I think about that way. If we're talking about this idea of powerlessness, right? Like, yeah, you today may not be able to march down to DC and demand that this thing changes, but
Yeah.
you decide that you want to join an organization, and maybe a conversation you have with somebody else affects the way that somebody else thinks about the thing. And then you guys decide together to, take this new idea and do something even bigger with it. And then that idea eventually brings you to DC. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
Yes.
there's little, like I always say, like, if you're feeling like, oh man, the world feels really heavy right now and I feel really powerless to it all, go compliment somebody in line at the coffee
Yeah.
shop, because I wonder what your compliment for that person, what that will do to affect their day, their overall mood and affect for the day, and how that will affect how they interact with the next person that they come across in the day, and then so on and so forth. And it's like a chain of events, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. A little gratitude goes a long way.
yeah. All right. Well, this has been a great conversation. Thanks for people who have stuck with us for a year of doing this little pod.
A daggone year. That's wild.
I mean, it's kind of crazy. We got no plans to stop, so.
Yeah. Thank you as well, Allie, for your professionalism and your entertainment as well. Your intellect, I think you bring so much to this. It's invaluable.
Oh, thanks. Well, I couldn't do it without your brain parts. So I appreciate all your ideas, and I enjoy trying to speak for the lay people sometimes. And
we need each other. I
yes.
think we need each other.
All right. Well, as always, do spread the word about our podcast. Follow us at Delve Psych Chicago on Instagram. Follow us on Substack, delvepsych.substack.com. And as always, if you're interested in a free consultation, call delvepsych.com, delvepsych.com. And we'll see you next time.
See you then.
See you
Bye.
then. Bye.